Dr. Krishnaswamy has been in Christ University since 1980 and he's a professor of Tamil. And as far as background is concerned, he is an academic, he's a writer, translator and folklore. And he has published creative and research work extensively and has won the Sahitya Academy Award for translation. And if I'm correct, one of the pioneering works that he has done is the translation of your probable Prime Minister or the former Chief Minister, the present Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Jayalalitha. So he has worked on her work. So on that note, I extend to you a warm welcome, sir. And he's on an MRP now. He's working on folklore, and I think his enormous experience in a very lucid way he intends to bring in this presentation. Over to Dr. P. Krishnaswamy.
Before starting my presentation, let me make one or two things clear to you. First thing is this: I am not going to give you a tailor-made plan for preparing a neat content of your syllabus of mathematics. So, but I give you enough idea and at the personal level, and also to make students, not necessarily in the language class, in whatever subject it is, in all the classes, whenever you find time, whenever you interact with the students, to make the students identify their alienation and then suggesting means to overcome it, to engage it. So for this, we have to go back to the origin of human history from the civilization, and then from the civilization you come to culture, and then you relate culture to humanities, and then you understand the kind of crisis you are in. You, in the sense, you individually, collectively as a social being, and as a citizen of a country, and as a world citizen. So it is as much important now because the so-called propaganda that the world has become small, it's a small village, the boundaries have come together, shortened, there are no boundaries and all that. Those are all the figment of imagination. They are not true. As long as you have a passport, as long as you require a visa to another country, the world will never become small. So your identity is well defined. If you don't feel your identity, others might get your identity. And your respect, your status in the society will depend largely upon that identity. So you have to tackle this issue at the individual level, at the social level, at the national level, and also the international level. So the training for that begins in the classroom, and the training for that begins with the teacher. I have approached the whole issue of language, moving to culture, and then I have come across many issues which are mentioned by scholars across the world, from Arun, your Ananthamurthy, to Samuel Huntington, Edward Said, and all that. Right. So there are a number of issues involved in that. From culture, I move to the crisis, the kind of crisis I have mentioned only. There are a good number of items in the crisis. So I then moved on to comparing culture with language, religion, mythology, and came back to the modern India, the way India understood modernity, whether it is to be called Indian modernity or a universal modernity, how to relate this universal modernity to Indian modernity, or the Western modernity which is erroneously taken as the modernity, and the modern elements that have stayed in Indian tradition, and then comparing Indian modernity with Western modernity. And then there have been many onslaughts. If you ask me, right from the 17th century, we ceased to be ourselves. That is, our psyche, our personality, all have either merged or have disappeared or have been terribly compromised. So I don't think we have got back our identity, which we have lost about 300 centuries ago. So, but still it is possible. Ironically, technology is helping us to go back to our real identity, and how the real identities have survived, what are the symbols of those identities, and then in a humble way, I have borrowing ideas from others also, I have identified a roadmap. I am giving you certain conclusions. Well, this is going to be a multi-media presentation. To avoid the monotony, I have selected a few clippings. I know some of you might have watched those clippings, but anyway, it will be very interesting to watch those clippings. Let me start with civilization and culture. Both are not the same. You have Indus Valley civilization, Mayan civilization, Egyptian civilization, Sumerian civilization. All these civilizations talk about the way people lived, the kind of comforts they had. Whenever Indus Valley civilization is mentioned, they talk about the utensils that they have used, the cultural symbols they had, the pond where they had their bath, and the religious affiliation they had, and the language they spoke. But culture is a bit more defined, different. Culture is evolved from civilization. Culture starts from an individual. Culture is known for its refinement. If you say you are a cultured person, the first thing that is expected from you is you will not harm anybody. You are aware of the power of truth. You are a seeker of truth. When you are a seeker of truth, you maintain a kind of detachment. You observe a kind of neutrality. You will never take sides. Violence is never a part of your agenda. So that is how we understand culture. In countries like India, which had survived for more than 5,000 years, culture and civilization go hand in hand. There are breaks when both get detached, but after some time, they come together. That is how the civilizations find means to sustain themselves. So all civilizations have depended on two traditions. One is a written tradition and the other is oral tradition. But by and large, till the invention of the printing press, it was largely on oral traditions. If culture is a refinement in behavior and taste, the backbone of that culture is your faith and your values. Faith and beliefs are controversial areas. If you are a rational person, you are supposed to again not believe in these beliefs and faiths, but in India, including the so-called rationalists, including the great personalities from the Dravidian movements, only partly they have become rationalists, and they were not fully rationalists in the sense they were proclaimed the rationalists, but their family members remained highly religious. Let me not be mistaken as a religious person, but the religiosity of India is to be understood in a very complex way, in a typical way. I will come to it during the presentation. Culture, when we come to our business of humanities, this is a statement from Harvard University. They are facing a crisis. I was just joking to Father Vice Chancellor a few days back. Harvard University is not getting students for humanities and social sciences. The drop rate was so alarming that they have formed a group to identify the reasons. Of course, it cannot be compared. Both the Indian situation and the American situation cannot be compared, because one of the reasons for their dropping rate was the outsource of jobs to countries like India. But then the other reasons are labor market is harsher. If you say that you have specialized in anthropology, nobody wants it. What's the use? If you say you have specialized in history, no. What's the purpose in employing somebody who is specialized only in history? And then because of the privatization and because of the quality education they offer, in America the cost is more. But in a private university like Christ University, the demand is more because of the multiple nature of our culture, our education system, our employment market, and all that. We have areas where the technocrats will not fit in. We have many areas where non-technocrats will do much better than the technocrats. in spite of the degeneration of both at the level of planning and execution, there are certain pockets of excellence where institutions have developed its own methodology to attract students, and ours is one of them. As I mentioned earlier, yesterday, we have managed to attract the students because we have put the learning of social sciences, humanities and social sciences in the proper perspective. But yet, we are not satisfied. So, the less popularity of humanities and social sciences attributed to harsher labor market and then the cost of higher education. But again, India is a land of ironies. In most of the government institutions in India, they offer traditional courses, but there are no takers. When we talk about civilization and culture, we go back to the Indus Valley civilization. How Indology got defined, evolved by the European scholars, and how literature got associated with culture, and how culture and civilization got mingled at the early stages of civilization. So, the value of literature was felt right from the period of Indus Valley civilization. Having said all this, what is the crisis right now? The presence of Indian languages in higher education is almost nil now. About 20 years ago, we were comfortable with both the languages. Maybe a little less proficiency in English, but we were able to manage. But now, we come across students who cannot speak one single sentence either in their mother tongue or in their regional language, the place where they live. My dear friends, this is not a one-way process. Let me complete my presentation. I believe that you are, if not more, you are equally resourceful in terms of your experience, in terms of your association with the students. You have many more to share with us, especially when you come from different parts of India. And only when we discuss a few things, at length, you can go back and share these ideas with your colleagues, with your management, and with the students, and you come up with some plan. So, to address this, though the government has set up many organizations, offered many projects for science and technology, for social science also, there's absolutely no plan to make an evaluation of cultural studies, language studies. There was absolutely no plan, even at the institution level. Only the central organizations like literary organizations like Sahitya Academy, National Book Trust, all those organizations. So there was no R&D, research and development, as far as this language and literature is concerned. So we need to create an innovative curriculum design. We need to create new materials. We need to train the teachers. We need to raise a terrific resource aggregation. Again, the harsh reality is this. This is a very harsh, very bitter reality. The marginalized groups got further alienated, and the culture has gone completely into the hands of these marginalized. To tell the plain truth, most of the government schools and colleges are filled with people from the lower strata of society. That is by caste and by the economic status also. So, you have people who are comfortable with your culture, language, but they have absolutely no economic say. They have no power, they have no authority. They are sidelined and they are marginalized. Public elementary education is 100%. At least in colleges, you find students from other strata of society. But elementary education, 99%. You can go back to your village, and even in metropolitan areas, the corporation schools are filled with only the children of domestic workers, maids and maids. Shall we drop this teaching of language altogether? Why is this nonsense? Why go through this drama of appointing a teacher, and the teacher goes into the class, blah blah something, and then the students make fun of the teacher. Why this hypocrisy? Why this double standard? language is the one which is narrative and which is rhythmic. The humanity lived with the language all these centuries. However great, however intense your knowledge of English, with one word you can conquer English. That word cannot be replaced by English. Any of the English words. For example, in Tamil we say Machan. Machan is just one word, sister's husband or wife's brother, creating a link between one family and another family, creating a lot of problems with these families. In most of the families, especially from agrarian backgrounds, absolutely no rhyme or reason, they kill each other. And this happens only between Machans. So the feudal mindset, the feudal past, and then unable to get to terms with the present situation, the changes in culture, all these will come into that word. I don't know, I am not downgrading the power of English, but then each language is unique. Unless, if you live in a multilingual setup, unless you are comfortable with the two languages, you can never be a part of the culture. And alienation starts right from earlier. The alienation used to, in our period, the alienation used to take place only when we come to the college where the meaning of instruction is English. Here, right from preschool, that alienation starts. Right. Now, the government also takes pride in saying that India is a multilingual country, multicultural. We follow pluralistic culture and all that. But is it an asset or is it a liability? I consider this as a liability because you will never be able to even mention a religion in public because of the fear that it might create problems. You cannot be self-critical. I am a Hindu. Coming from an agricultural background, I cannot be critical of my own community. They will ostracize me. Right? So you cannot be self-critical, and you cannot be critical of other cultures, other religion, other social groups also. So, is it really an asset? If you are not self-critical, you cannot grow. If you are not critical of others, others will not grow. So you don't grow, you don't let others grow. This is certainly not an asset, it's a liability.